Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. We do have some data to cover really quick, so let me find that. All right, so we had average hourly earnings 0.4. They were looking for 0.3. This is very interesting on this one. Non-farm employment 209. They were looking for 224. Typically, when the non-farm that comes out early in the week is really high off the mark, so will this number. This number usually is high. It will follow, right? We weren't seeing that this time. 209 over 224, so it's actually below average. Unemployment rate 3.6. They were looking for 3.6. It's a little interesting there. Looks like the dollar reacted bearishly to that data, but it did pop and recover the majority of that sell-off. You're about halfway recovered at this point. The correlation is slowly coming back, nothing to really use in your trading, but we do have a weak correlation here. The correlation that you want to keep an eye on recently is the 10-year and, well, yeah, the 10-year yield and the 10-year note, which is basically the same thing. But keep an eye on the 10-year yield. We are slowly breaking above that 4%, and it looks like it's ready to break and hold as well. So if it does continue to hold above this 4% level, it's not looking too good for high growth companies on equities. So keep an eye on that. Definitely not looking great. Let's actually set some more alerts here. I think all my alerts were hit. We'll put some more alerts up here in case this thing keeps running. All right, let's go back to ES. Let's take a look at our overnight session. Overnight low is the last candle of the session. That is trading at 44.31. Overnight high is on the news candle, trading at 44.54. About average. We're looking at about 20 to 25 point overnight range. We did fill in one of the single prints from yesterday. So the single print at mid 50s has been filled in. We were going to use these three levels as our targets for today. So we had one in the mid 50s, we have one around 60, and then we have one around the mid 70s. What else do we have here? We have the value low of yesterday that is trading at 44.26. We have the value high of yesterday trading at 44.50. So currently we are an inside day based on the value area and the full price. So could be a little choppy. Obviously, the pre-market session was very choppy. Hasn't really determined which direction it wants to find value. If we do start holding below 26, we're looking for value to the downside. If we hold above 50, we are looking for value to the upside, possibly in these two LVNs. All right, for the trade plan here, let's take a look. We're going to say this is a D shape. Which means we are responsive. Buy low, sell high environment. There is no possible overnight fade. Macro. Macro is bearish for now. Actually, we'll leave it the same. Bearish but retracing. Excuse me. Same as yesterday. Let's say initial balance holding below 31. We could look for 26, and then a possible failure down to 16. Holding above 50, we're looking for the overnight high at 54. And then the LVN zones, which are, let's say, 60 and 74. All right, that is the trade plan for today. Nothing too fancy. I believe we had a poor high yesterday. We did. So we had a poor high at 52. So we would have to go to 54 to repair that. Let's fix our overnight levels here. Actually, that's the low. This needs to come down. Actually, that was yesterday. Yeah, we need to bring this up here. All right, there we go. Another thing we can look for today are those walls. We were seeing a lot of walls the past couple of days, buy and sell walls, typically every 5 points. So all of these walls have already been taken. Did we? Yeah, we did. So we did have another wall during the pre-market around 50.75. I'm assuming that was probably trying to get filled around 50 because of the news. He probably got filled a little high. The next area that we have not tested where there could possibly be a wall is 55. So if we do break the overnight high, be on the lookout for a possible sell wall around 55. Every other level below us we have already tested, so we know those walls are filled. Have we tested 25? I believe we tested it yesterday. Yeah, that was the low. So 25 was the wall that we traded yesterday. So was 20. So to the low side, there could possibly be a wall at 15, but we don't know. So we'll have to see if that plays out. So possible walls around 15 and 55. Good morning, everybody. What's going on? DT, Arthur, Music, Gavin, Sean, Christopher, Fernando, Blood, Style, Philip, Play a Made, Boat, Leo, Patrick, Krista, Aquarius, Shiny, Vic, David, Cliff, Hero, Blue Shirt, and Phil. Good morning, everybody. All right, here's the open. Do we have any news left after the open? No, we do not. So that is it for the news today. Hopefully we can have another one and done trade today. Sadly, we were not able to catch that entire move yesterday. So if you guys held that after we ended the stream, price ran all the way to high of day. So we missed the low of day by 3 ticks. We took our trade above the low of day by 3 ticks. But sadly, we were not able to hold that entire move. Hopefully some of you guys were able to catch a little bit more of that. Good morning, Daniel, Blade. So far, opening volume a little low. We'll see how it closes. Microsoft gapping down. Russell breaking out right at the open. Strong move on Russell. Let's take a look around here. Let's see. Bitcoin, Ethereum up 1%. Oil down. Gold and silver up about 1%. Sectors are all about break even, give or take a quarter of a percent. Biggest gainer is the gold sector, followed by retail. Biggest loser is utilities, followed by real estate. Big tech is a mixed bag, half red, half green. Biggest gainer is Tesla, if you consider that tech. If not, it would be NVIDIA. Let's see here. Biggest loser is Microsoft and Facebook. Dollar coming down, giving away its pump on the news, which is making ES come up here. Strong Delta move on the open, already up 12K on Delta. Breaking the session VWAP here. Really strong move here, even though we are in a D shape. You got to be careful as we enter this upper tail to where most of the sell pressure is going to come from. Anywhere from 46 to 54. Delta approaching the high of the session here. High of the session was, looks like around 12.5. NASDAQ and Russell doing the thing again where they're inverse, which is adding to the chop. Basically, days like this, when we're in a D shape and NASDAQ and Russell are inverse, most of the time you're going to see a lot of chop. You're going to see the value area high being sold, overnight high being sold. So as we push up here, we should be getting some sell pressure. We already are. It's just hard to see. There's a lot of bearish delta here. -2, -2, 2. Another 4 there. Could be a little 1-minute bulldog. Double bottom, double back, put in the head here. I'd say as long as the head stays above 40, this could pop up. Oh, by the way, Apex ended their 90% off sale, but they dropped it down to an 80% off sale. So pretty much the same sale. That is going to be extended until the end of the month, the 31st. So 80% off until the 31st. Good morning, Sabrina. Farad, Sam, TK, OP. What's going on, guys? Appreciate everybody being here. Russell is running here. It's up 11 points this candle. Put that into perspective, 10 points is about 0.5% on Russell, so that's a pretty big move. Okay, so if this wants to be a bulldog, it has to bounce here. This would be the head of the bull flag. A lot of delta coming in today. Doesn't look like it's going to be a bulldog. Looks like it's being a POC / value high rejection here. Keep an eye on the range bot today. Pretty tight session here. What we like to look for on the range bot is anytime it has multiple wicks in the same area, like tweezers. If you see those tweezers inside the clouds, it's usually going to bounce back to the midline, possibly back to the other cloud. If you look at the 15-minute, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wicks on the low end, and that gave us a nice little bounce to the midline there. No, OP, I'm not really big into the commodities right now. We took really big lithium trades. We traded uranium as well. I think uranium was 2020. We traded lithium into 2021, 2022. Haven't been too big into the commodities recently. Good morning, Lizard. Yeah, Dime trades more of the commodities, more of the dividend stuff. He likes the slower stuff. I like slow, but not that slow. We like trading ES instead of NASDAQ, but we don't really trade gold or anything like that. I had a few months back in the day that I used to trade GC, the gold futures. But then I switched to I can't remember what order it was. I either switched to oil or I went from oil to gold. But yeah, I tried out gold and oil back in the day. Preferred oil, but it's because oil was just way more volatile. Beautiful 1-minute candle close here. Nice little hammer. And now we are bouncing. So it looks like you are trying to play out that bulldog. Let's see if we can stay above 44 here. You do weekly strangles on GC and oil. Those probably cost you a pretty penny, don't they? I'm sure the premium is really high. $90 days to expiration. That's not weekly. What do you mean by... Oh, do you mean you're doing them every week, but you look for 90 days out? When you said weekly, I thought you meant like you take the weeklies. Good morning, Kevin. It's 3K of buying power for 1K premium. Are you selling them as a credit? I'm assuming you're doing credits. Yeah, that makes sense. What's the downside though? Like, isn't the I'm assuming you're taking. What's your delta basically? What delta are you taking? I'm assuming your delta is pretty low. So you're doing it kind of like an iron condor, I'm assuming. Yeah, 5 to 7 delta. Yeah, that's what I was assuming. Very, very low. So if you get stopped, you're taking a hit. Yeah, I'm thinking about once they finally stop raising rates, I'll probably start doing more of a wheel strategy in some IRA accounts. Um, so kind of like buying a bunch of shares, maybe on dividend companies or something like that, and then selling calls against them. Or you could start naked. You could sell puts, cash covered. Um, yeah. So make premium off the puts. If you get assigned, take the shares, sell the calls, rinse and repeat. I got to check with the IRA accounts though, because some accounts don't let you do that. Yeah, Robert, funny enough, man, we built some indicators, we got our strategy ready. We were getting ready to trade. Is it ZN? I always mix them up. I think it's ZN. Yeah, ZN. We were getting ready to trade ZN. You can see I still have it charted out and everything. And our strategy fell apart right before we started live testing it. The correlation just wasn't staying consistent. We just took a little too long to get it ready. We found a nice edge and we didn't execute it quick enough. That happens. You have edge decay. Sometimes you find a really nice pattern, and by the time you're ready to trade it, it just goes away. But yeah, I think that was like last year. That was a little bit ago. But yeah, I was trying to add more of a long term, or at least a midterm futures play along with our ES trading. This is probably the longest stretch I've had in probably my entire trading career, to be honest, that I have not traded any like swing trading positions. We're purely just day trading. Typically, we do a good mix where we'll do some options, we'll trade some equities alongside our scalping. Um, but yeah, this is probably the longest stretch where we've just been purely day trading. I've just been enjoying not having any overnight risk. I mean, it does suck. We miss some really big moves every now and then. Obviously the overnight, but it's been really pleasant just not having any overnight risk. Just restarting fresh every single day, not having to worry about stuff as you're away from the computer. Still looking okay as long as it holds on to like 38 to 40 here. You're struggling on VWAP. It's a really choppy day. As we said, everything that creates a choppy day, you have today. You have the D shape. You have the Russell and NASDAQ inverse. You have the inside day. So pretty much all factors that lead to chop are happening today. So be prepared for some chop. It's a Friday as well. Fridays are normally choppy. Yeah, Sam, today's not the day to be aggressive, at least right now. You got to wait for some value to be found. Yeah, exactly, Shiny. You definitely sleep better if you're just day trading. Yeah, Robert, that's rough. Yeah, we always say, man, new traders winning is a lot worse than new traders losing. Because they think they're doing everything right, they start sizing up, they throw their life savings at it, and then it's gone. Okay, looks like this bulldog is playing out. We're still looking for this upper tail section, which would be anywhere from 45 to 54. Very good delta today, I will say. Pretty choppy price action, but the delta is really clean. You're getting a lot of delta. There's a ton of liquidity this quarter. It seems like as soon as the quarter switched, the liquidity just ramped up. We've been getting really big walls, big orders, big blocks, and it's not causing any massive wicks or sweeps or those sorts of whipsaw patterns, right? Typically, you get those whipsaws when the liquidity is very low. We have a really nice liquidity. You can see on the tape, there's very few orders that go above the level 1. And even if they do, they're okay. Like these orders going above the level 1 at 100 contracts, 170, that's not bad. Not a big deal. Yeah, exactly, Freeman. Yeah, we were lucky to see 50 contracts per level. Now we're seeing almost 100 every level. This quarter is definitely people are filling their bags. It's funny, it's kind of counterintuitive because typically the summer months you have lower volume and you don't really have a lot of action. And we're kind of seeing that. Like we have a lot of days where the volume is extremely low, but the liquidity is still very good. It's solid. Look at the delta we're getting the past few days. Negative 26,000, went down to 36. This one here was 28. Most of them are negative, but we're seeing very high numbers. We're already at 11K on the day. Okay, here comes the upper tail. So if this is going to maintain its inside day, you're going to see a lot of sell pressure around this area here. This is the hard part about trading D-shaped days. You want to be a short seller up here, but you're shorting a very strong candle. Bulldog playing out beautifully. Put in a really strong node here at 46. Looks like they're looking for that poor high. Keep it on that poor high at 52. It would need 54 to repair. Russell is leading the day. Russell is on fire here. It's up 1%. Russell and NASDAQ are no longer inverse. They're both going up, which is clearly helping ES. You can see that sell pressure starting to come in. Tape's getting a little bit more red. The ticks are red. You have some bearish orders coming in. It's holding up its volume, holding around the high 20s. Okay, at this point, the dollar has given up all of its gains on the news. Here comes that poor high. You're going to need more and more delta as you climb here, because this is the strongest level, 50 to like 55, that the sellers want to maintain. This is where the inside day is being determined. So if you're a value trader, it's based on the value area. If you're a price trader, you're an inside day, obviously, until you get all the way back above the high. But we like looking at the value area, right? Because sometimes they'll have these really aggressive tails that we don't really care about. So failing the value area high here of yesterday, so far the sellers are trying to hold that D shape. So pretty much this area right here is the strongest point of sell pressure, but anywhere in the upper tail could be sold, right? Because in a D shape, they want to protect this upper tail. But the highest point of sell pressure would be value area high of yesterday, overnight high of today. So far they are protecting that value area high. Keep an eye on Russell and NASDAQ. They're both pushing up, but Russell's looking a little toppy. There's two main entries on the Bulldog, Freeman. You have the head entry. So like when it pulls back and it forms that head, you can enter on the pullback, or you can wait for it to break the highest point of the head. So like you could have got in on like that hammer candle, you could have got in on any of the chop right here, because the chop is forming the head, but you're anticipating it, right? If you wait for confirmation, it's the break of the high. So if you would have anticipated it, your average would have been probably VWAP, let's say 40. If you would have waited for confirmation, it would have been like 44, 45. So waiting, obviously, you're paying for the confirmation. You're paying insurance. But yeah, those are the two ways I like to enter, either on the pullback or on the head. You can do both. So you could do like half on the head and then wait for the confirmation, enter the other half. This one was a little scary to enter on the head because you're right on both the VWAPs. So in all honesty, you probably would have waited till like 43, at least 42, when it started to break the VWAPs. It would have been pretty scary entering this with both VWAPs resisting the price or holding the price down. It's a lot easier in hindsight to say, okay, I would have bought the pullback here, but would you have? You know what I mean? Like VWAP is pretty scary. I think that's the big problem when a lot of people go back and they backtest trades is they lie to themselves and they say like, okay, here's the perfect entry. That's what I would have taken. And they don't take every variable into consideration. Like you most likely would not have taken that because you would have been scared of VWAP. And yeah, you also have the D shape. You can see how much delta we're absorbing here. There's a lot of bullish delta, but they don't care. They're absorbing it because this is the prime selling location of the day. You're going to need a lot of delta to push 50 to 54. And we might have a wall at 55 as well. So keep a close eye on 55 here. Building up a pretty solid node here on 49.50. Looks like it's around 50 and a quarter to be exact. Yeah, I don't believe the walls that we were seeing yesterday were showing up on the books either. They were showing partial. So I think most of them were showing about 200 to 300 contracts, but they were trading 4,000. So it was an iceberg. Most of these walls are icebergs. Some programs are pretty good at detecting icebergs, but the mainstream ones, they miss most of them. Still building up a lot of delta around this 50 level. Big rejection there. That was not from any blocks or anything, just a lot of delta. That was a very quick, like 1.5 point rejection. And it was right at the start of the 30-minute candle. So that 30-minute candle is closing very strong. You opened up around 35, closed around 50. but you're in a D shape, so most likely a trap. Possible double bottom here on the dollar. It's going to help the sellers here a little bit. Very close to shifting the POC to the high here on the cash. Look at how fast the euro tape is moving today. A lot of action going on in the dollar and the euro. Good morning, Jennifer. Poor high repair would be into 54, which is exactly where the overnight high is. I think the buyers want one more push into 54. They're just being absorbed for now. POC shifted. Microsoft looking a little toppy here. Apple is going for the gap fill to the upside. NVIDIA is on fire. Look at NVIDIA, 1.8%. They were the biggest gainer this morning. They are running. Every single 1 minute candle holding the ADMA, making new highs. Up 2%. Yeah, keep an eye on NVIDIA. Definitely one of the biggest reasons why we're pushing up. That starts coming down. Doesn't look too good. Putting in another poor high on that same exact level at 52. Pretty decent volume even inside the chop. It is coming down quite a bit, but last candle did close above 20K. You can see most of the delta being absorbed on this 50.5 level, which I think is pretty close to where that wall was on the pre-market. This is the downside to having a lot of liquidity. When the volume falls off, it's very difficult to push the price around, so it just kind of stays glued to one level. No, David, I don't use any programs like that. Stan, it's really hard to say. It really depends on the pattern that the delta is making when it's being absorbed. Right now, we're just in like a very standard distribution pattern. So you would treat it as you would any other distribution. We're trying to break the distribution low here. So it is leaning slightly bearish. But yeah, it depends on if we're making a divergence, if we're sweeping. There's a lot of variables. Pretty good sweep there on the 1 minute, pushing the distribution low, coming right back into the range. They're doing pretty good, OP. We've been getting a lot of rain, so I haven't even had to touch them for a while. Yeah, have a good day, Sam. Yeah, Paul, these holiday weeks are usually like this. Chop, chop, chop. NVIDIA topping out a little bit. I used to mention this a lot, but I haven't mentioned it in a while. If you guys are new to the stream, be sure to check out my How to Trade playlist and my Volume Profile playlist. We've got a ton of videos on YouTube about all the different techniques that we talk about on stream. So if you're ever confused about things that I mentioned, there is most likely a video for it. I'd say like 95% of the topics that we cover on stream, I have a video for. So be sure to check those out if you guys are completely new. The more up-to-date series is the Volume Profile series. Those videos are all fairly new. The How to Trade playlist goes all the way back to like 2018. Most of the stuff that we teach in those videos, it's not outdated, but we probably could have taught it a little bit better. But yeah, some of them are like 5 years old. Appreciate that, David. Just waiting for this absorption to be over. I think they have one more push into 54, possibly 55. A little hard to say. NVIDIA back to the high almost immediately. Pulled back for a few candles, straight back to the high. Yeah, Russell back to the high as well. Not sure what's leading Russell because the banks are not... They're not super hot today. Let me see. Yeah, the big banks are up 0.25%. Small banks are up 1%. Must just be a decent push across the board. Nothing really significant moving it. I think last we checked, Paul, the biggest sectors were financials, and I think, what was it? It was healthcare or retail. But they are very diversified. But yeah, I think it was finance and either retail or healthcare. Pulling back on ES finally. This absorption is playing out for the bears. Keep an eye on VWAP, 44 to 43. If they hold VWAP, they're still looking for that push into 54. Doesn't have to go to 54. Just kind of looks like it wants it. This is that D shape playing out, so we're back below the Valeria high here, still sticking to standard rotations. Beautiful hold of yesterday's Valeria high at 50. If you guys are taking this rotation, very standard rotation targets. POC, Valeria low. You could look for the lower tail for a runner. But yeah, very standard. Here's the POC target here. Pretty much perfect D shape when VWAP and the POC are lining up. If it's a perfect D shape, VWAP and the POC will be on the middle of the day. The cash POC is a little high here, but if we look at the full session POC, it's damn near the middle of the day. Let's see here. You have 10.5 points to the high, and you have about 12 to the low, so pretty much the middle of the day. Not really smooth. That's the problem with D shapes is most of the time you just have to respect it. It's not going to give you any perfect signals. You just have to respect the levels. So like we were saying earlier, anything in that upper tail can be sold. As you approach the overnight high, the sell pressure gets stronger and stronger. this main level that was being sold is not today's value high, it's yesterday's. But yes, anywhere in this upper tail, you could take a sell, and historically, it is a good sell. Obviously, you want to take it as high as you can because your risk to reward is better. But yeah, anywhere in the upper tail is a standard sell. As long as you can get a little bit over a 1-to-1 risk to reward on a standard D shape, you're usually okay. Pretty strong bullish hammer here off of VWAP. They are protecting VWAP. This should not be happening if they were respecting the D shape. They should not be respecting VWAP. It should be breaking through it. So keep an eye on this bounce here. If the bounce stays below 48, it's most likely a trap and it's going to go right back down. We've seen this time and time again where you have a D shape, you try to bounce off VWAP, it gets trapped, and then it nukes. Yeah, going back to your question, it's like the saying, it works until it doesn't, right? You have to respect the D shape until it stops working. And if you get caught on that trade where it stops working, it's not a big deal. Seems like the trend line traders are trying to hold this trend here, which would line up perfectly with VWAP. There's also a 1-minute pivot exactly where this doji is. Okay, so far it looks like a trap, as we were saying. Any bounce here that stays below this distribution, I'd say below 47.50 to 48 is a trap, and it should be continuing lower. This rotation wants to go down to, let's see here, 39. Best case scenario for the Bears, 31. $39 is the value of low, so that's always the rotation target. No, that is the value low of the full session. Very close to the cash. The cash is 40. They're typically close. But yeah, it depends on how wide the day is. So this pullback here is holding VWAP as well. That typically does not happen on traps. But we'll see if it can hold back above this distribution. Typically, traps should be like one smooth move. So like it smoothly bounces up and then kind of squeezes out. So bouncing off VWAP, little double tap of VWAP there. Showing a little bit of buy pressure. NASDAQ completely gave up its last candle. Russell's still holding, but NQ completely given up the B candle. Or sorry, I think it's the A candle. Yeah, that's the A candle. Yeah, it's because there's just so much liquidity. It takes the market a long time to play these moves out. It's been like that for quite a bit. Like our average trade time it was an hour and a half. Now it's down to like 55 minutes, which is absurdly high. But yeah, it's taking a very long time to play out these trades. I'm okay with it as long as it's kind of pushing in your direction, right? If it just keeps going against you and then it goes in your direction, then it comes right back and then rinse and repeat, that's a pain in the ass. But if it's like chopping the way you want it to chop, it's okay. Kind of sucks waiting for it, but at least you're in profit. Like right here, it's chopping downward. So if you're taking the downward rotation, it's not that hard to watch. Yeah, this is looking more like a VWAP. Um, there's a lot of buy pressure on VWAP instead of it just being a quick trap. They're actually trying to hold VWAP here. It's also the POC of today and the POC of yesterday, so there is a ton of value here. Coming into the 1 hour trail here, it's been red since Wednesday. Beautiful pivots here on the 30 and the 1 hour calling the bottom. We haven't tested those pivots again, so if we do lose, let's say around the mid 30s, that's probably where you're looking, 44.20. Dollar broke the low here. Let's put an alert here, see if we want to reclaim this. For now, looking pretty bullish for the for ES. Volume dropping off very quickly, down to 12K on that candle. You're stuck between two major levels here, VWAP and the distribution low. Everything in between can be completely ignored. This is one thing that will help you guys work on your patience. Oh, here you go. We'll hold that thought. Breaking VWAP here. Let's see if we can break this 1 hour delta. 39 value low also lines up perfectly with where that pump started. So they're currently looking for 39. Sorry, what I was saying was to help you with your patience, you have to understand which part of the chart can you ignore, right? So if we look at this chart here, we can see there's a very important level on that distribution low, and then we have VWAP here. There's not really a whole lot in between. So you just have to kind of turn your brain off in between those two levels so you don't get chopped out inside that that nastiness, right? All that chop. You don't care what's happening here. You really don't. You only care when it starts to get close to these important levels. Is it building up delta below VWAP? Is it breaking through the distribution low? Who cares what it's doing in between? The hard part is identifying those levels, right? But the funny thing is, I think a lot of you guys are really good at finding the levels. You guys are really good at finding all the important things you need to on the chart. It's the trading part of it that you guys struggle with. So once you find all those levels, like I said, you just need to know when to turn your brain off. And you won't be taking those bad trades. That's what helps me hold on to my trades. And like I said, we have an average trade time of pretty much an hour this month. So we hold on to our trades for quite a bit. Okay, so full rotation basically being complete. You can front run this, doesn't really matter. You're looking for 39, somewhere around 40. And then rinse and repeat. Buyers should be pretty strong down here. They should be very strong as you get closer to that overnight low. The problem with the downside here compared to the upside is, I guess it's not that much bigger. I was going to say the overnight low and the value low of yesterday, they're farther apart compared to the high. The high is like right next to each other, but they're not that much off. I think it's only like 1 or 2 points. It's not that big of a deal. Yeah, that's a good way to handle it in the beginning, Matt. I will say there is a downside to that, because you're never going to learn how to manage your trades if you're not managing your trades. You know what I mean? But if you have really good brackets and you see that those brackets work and you don't have to manage your trades, then don't do it. You know what I mean? If you just have to walk away from the computer, you're fine. But if your brackets are not working and you need to manage your trades somehow, you obviously have to practice doing so. Basically, what I'm saying is you'll never get better at managing your trades if you just run away from it every time. But if it's working for you, then leave it alone. Okay, here's the rotation. Rotation has been complete. So if you guys took that trade, you should be getting filled on your main target here. If you're leaving a runner, the best possible target for a runner is the overnight low, which is 31.50. You got that trade, Byron? Awesome. Yeah, that was a very standard one. Yeah, Benjamin, that's definitely something that's hard to do because you think the market is just an infinite cash machine, right? So you start making money, you hit your daily goal, and you're asking yourself like, why should I stop here? It's just infinite cash. I can just keep making money, and that's just it's a fallacy, right? It's not actually true. The best way to fix that is just having experience. You know what I mean? Once you see that you can just consistently build an account by sticking to around your daily goal, you can constantly remind yourself, like, I don't need to trade more here. I'm okay. Yeah, Fridays specifically. We always talk about giving yourself an allowance on Fridays. And what we mean by that is let's say you made $1,000 this week, which anybody would be happy with, right? Let's say you made $1,000 and you're going into Friday and you're like, okay, I want to trade Friday, but I don't want to give away my entire week. You can give yourself a little bit of an allowance. You can say, like, okay, I'm going to give myself $200 or $300. And if I lose that, we're going to call it a week and we'll close the week plus 700. If you're talking about the rectangles, these are just imbalances. Those are delta imbalances. It's whenever the delta is exceptionally strong in that area. They're done automatically by ATOS. If you guys are using ATOS, it's called stacked imbalance. I believe my settings are pretty much default. Yeah, exactly, Sam. You never want to go green to red on a Friday. You just ruin your whole weekend. You start the next week pissed off. You always want to end the week happy, right? So you can start fresh on Monday. Look at where we're bouncing. We're bouncing almost exactly at 39. It swept it a little bit, but the D shape is doing exactly what it's designed to do. You've already hit your middle target if you took that 39. POC target is already being hit. Value area high is 47. We're almost there already. We've almost completed this rotation. You only need like 3 more points. Sorry, Blood, what do you mean? You said I know it was late on the POC, but short on the anchored VWAP. What are you referring to? They're still looking for 47 to complete that rotation. No, I always look at the 30-minute. The 5-minute is a slightly off. TradingView has a kind of a bug where if you change the time frames of the candles, it slightly changes the profile. That should not happen, but it's always been like that. So we stick to the 30-minute. That's what we use as our guide. Russell breaking out here, by the way. They're still looking for 47 as long as it didn't shift. Let's take a look. Yeah, it did not shift. Currently at 47. Okay, so this level here, you might have to front run a little bit. There's a lot of resistance around where the value area high is. You're also putting in a lower high structure here. Yeah, have a good one, music. POC shifted towards the middle here. The only problem on the day is we have a poor high. So it wants to go up into 54 to repair that. Little weak on the delta here on this push. You can see the delta is struggling on the average. The upper rotation is pretty much complete. We'll see if it wants to go through it like it did last time. Sorry, guys. At this point of the day, there's not much to talk about. Basically, just rinse and repeat the same pattern over and over again. We have the value high being protected here, the 47 to 46 area being sold. This delta is a little weak on this pop. Volume dropping down pretty quickly. Let's take a look at our overall value here. Yeah, it's not looking too good. We built up a ton of value around 85 to 90. Pretty big sell off yesterday, and now we're generating a lot of value around 46. So losing about 40 points of value this week. We do have a lot of support around the low 4400s. The biggest thing holding ES up right now is Russell running and the dollar coming down. NASDAQ's not really helping too much. Okay, very important level here. The 4750 to 48 area. This is the distribution low of earlier. This is about when you want to turn your brains back on and see how it's reacting to this level. So far, pretty bearish reaction. They tried to buy into it, pulling back immediately. They're not building up a lot of bearish delta here. It's the one issue. This is also right where the value high is as well. Okay, looking pretty good. Bottom heavy candle, a lot of bearish delta on the low. POC coming up pretty quickly for the half target. And then the value low is 38. So almost identical to the first trade or the first rotation. Okay, very weak reaction by the sellers here. This is not closing bottom heavy, so they built up a nice node at 45, but it's closing towards the top. So these guys are trapped for now. It's funny, this one level I marked out, you can see we're building up a lot of delta on that level. So it's being respected. People are paying attention to that distribution low. If they start to reclaim this low, they're probably looking to sweep the high, possibly into 50, 75. Still struggling for now. Okay, notice how they're building up a lot of delta just above that level. So they're definitely trying to sweep this high right here. They're looking for liquidity, possibly into 50, 75, possibly even higher, maybe 54 to repair the high. Little block at 49.50. They're still looking for that liquidity on that high, hitting that level pretty much to the tick. Russell still running. One time framing up on Russell, just keeps making new highs every 30-minute candle. Looks like there's a... No, never mind. Looked like there was a small wall there, but there isn't. Just a lot of delta. Delta looking pretty good here. I think it's high of day. Yeah, that's high of day there. That's unfortunate, Christopher. Making the poor high worse here. 3 TPOs. So that level we were watching was hit pretty much to the exact tick. You missed it by 2 ticks so far. It's not a divergence yet, no. And even if it was, we don't trade divergences like that because you're looking back too far. We like to look for like the local trend on delta. So the local trend here is there is no divergence. It's very bullish. You can zoom out and say there might be a divergence here because price is putting in lower highs. We don't like to trade it like that. We like to look at it locally. We've tried to take trades like that, and yes, they work sometimes, but very often it's ignored. Very often they only care about the local trend. Yeah, Paul, I think we have like 3 poor highs in this area. It's ridiculous. How do I define local? Just based on like where, so like you see this is one smooth impulse. So I would define local wherever that impulse started. So like this impulse started around 10:30. So I'd say about the last 30 minutes. You just want to look at it from trend to trend, right? So like this is an uptrend here. So is delta uptrending on this move? Yes. So like this move here, this is a downtrend from top to the bottom. Was it downtrending during that move? Yes, right. So you just want to look at it locally as far as those impulses go. If the impulse is, like we could say this entire move is an impulse from the low of day, but that's not really being genuine because we had an impulse up here, then an impulse down. So we can't say this is all one impulse. It's multiple moves. I don't really know how to quantify that. I don't really know how to give you an exact metric. It's just kind of one of those things that it's easier to do visually. They're trying to re-lose the distribution low at 47.50, but it's currently being protected. As long as they hold that, they're looking to sweep the high. A sweep would just be like breaking the high there and then retracing back below it. Well, it could mean it could be anything. A sweep is just a pattern. It could be on a 1 minute, could be on a daily, could be on a weekly. A sweep is just defined as breaking a level and retracing back below it with a wick or above it if it's a upward sweep. Okay, looks like we are trying to lose this distribution low. We are still technically in a lower rotation. You finished the upper rotation, and now they're trying to hold the value area high and send it back down. Okay, starting to build up a lot of delta below the distribution low. Doesn't look like it's completely lost yet. You can see how price is kind of pulling back into it. We haven't really established a lower high below that low. Volume dropping pretty quickly. Last candle closed with 8K. Starting to build up delta here. You can see we built up delta in the last candle, tried to bounce, closed weak, and now we're building up more delta below that low. Potentially ready to retest VWAP, which would be the POC target, I believe. Let me see here. Yeah, so POC target of this rotation is 44, and then the value low target is once again around 39. It's actually 40 this time. Not much brain power has to be used today. You're basically looking at two lines. You're looking at the value area high and the value area low. Like we were saying in our trade plan, when you have a D shape like this, you always want to look for different factors that will either make it have a high probability of breaking out of the D shape or is it going to stay in the D shape. And this morning we had pretty much all the factors lining up for it staying in the D shape. We were an inside day. We had a little bit of chop on the dollar. We had inverse NASDAQ and Russell. The overnight levels were lining up with the value area levels of yesterday. POC is like 44 to 45. It shouldn't be struggling this much on the value high. So it's definitely showing you that they're trying to increase value. You can see the cash profile is turning more into a P shape, where most of that volume is towards the high. This rotation has probably struggled the most out of the what? This is the fourth rotation today. Not sure you mean, Steve. I think you're referring to initial balance. Opening range, I usually just use the first 30 minutes. Yeah, have a good weekend, Jones. All right, guys, we are going to call it there. I know today was a little boring. Hopefully, you guys were able to catch at least one of those rotations. We are currently still in a downward rotation. It's really struggling on this value area high, but you are technically in a downward rotation. So what basically happened today is you started off with that downward rotation. You hit the value area high, rotated downward, it rotated back up. These levels have obviously shifted a little bit. The value area low is here, value area high is here. They've shifted a little bit. You finished the downward rotation. You just finished the upper rotation. So now, I think, what's this, the third one? We had one here, one. There was more than that. I think we're missing one. This is like the third one. So as long as it fails below this 40-50 level, you're looking for the POC and you're looking for the value area low. POC is 44, value area low is about 40. If you hold above this 50, you're still leaning bearish, but it's possibly looking to repair these poor highs. So anywhere from 54 to 55. If it gets to 55 today, there most likely will be a wall there. We have seen a buy or sell wall every 5 points in this area. So the local levels we have not tested where there could be walls is 55 and let me see. I think it was 15. Yeah, 15 and 55. So if we get to either one of those levels, probably not 15, but most likely 55, just keep an eye out. There might be a wall there. So very possibly could get a small scalp off of that wall if we do hit 55. But all right, guys, you guys enjoy your weekend. If you guys are in Discord, just head over to the trading floor. We'll be hanging out there for the rest of the day as always. Apex ended their 90% off sale yesterday, but they dropped it down to an 80% off sale. So 80% off until the end of the month. If you guys wanted to grab accounts, you guys know the deal. There's the link. If you guys want to test out ATOS, there is a free trial as well. But all right, guys, you guys enjoy your weekend. I will catch you guys on Monday. Peace.